I used to think betrayal came with shouting, slamming doors, or dramatic exits. Turns out it can show up dressed in pearls, smiling, holding a pen. If you've ever been guilted by your own family, if you've ever questioned what love should cost, stay with me. You might find your story in mine, because this didn't start with theft. It started with a promise, followed by a condition, and it ended with something far worse than money. My name is Elowen Marsh. I'm 31. I freelance as a journalist out of Chicago, mostly local politics and the occasional think piece. But this is the hardest story I've ever had to write, because it's not just personal, it's surgical. But before the cuts, there was just a conversation. It happened over chamomile tea and lemon cookies, my mother's favorites. She reached across the dining table that day, her rings catching the sun like small knives. "Elowen," she said, voice soft, almost maternal. "You know your father and I built quite a nest egg." I nodded, unsure where this was going. "We've decided we'll share it, with you and Vesper." She smiled, paused, then, "But first we need a contribution from you. 50,000, just to show you're serious." I laughed. I thought she was joking, but she wasn't, and when I said no thanks, she just blinked and changed the subject like it never happened. I brushed it off, because that's what you do with Daphne Marsh. You brush her off, or you get swept under. A few weeks later, the email came. IRS notification, immediate action required. At first I thought it was a scam, but then I opened it. Amount due, $45,178.91 filed under my Social Security number. I stared at the itemized list. Expenses from 2 years ago, designer handbags, resort charges, car rentals in Miami, none of it mine. My thumb hovered over the phone screen, trying not to shake as I scrolled. And then I saw it. Filed under self-employment income, consulting for Vesper Ventures. My sister's vanity brand. My breath caught. Vesper, of course. I rushed to my banking app, fingers fumbling, heart thudding in my ears. My name, my accounts, my credit line, and tucked in the transaction history, $3,200 to a private stylist, $6,700 to a jewelry boutique in New York, $18,000 wired to an account I'd never seen. But the name on that account? Somehow, still mine. I felt my stomach drop, not just because of the numbers, but because deep down, a small, broken part of me already knew. This wasn't Vesper acting alone. This had Daphne written all over it. And then the memory hit. Years ago. Our old living room smelled of lilacs and Chanel No. 5. I was just out of college. Daphne handed me a document, smiling sweetly. "Just a little family paperwork," she'd said. "To protect the trust, darling." I didn't read it. I just signed. Because that's what daughters do when they're trying to earn love. My phone buzzed again. Another email, and then another. I was being buried in digital evidence of a life I hadn't lived, and suddenly, I couldn't breathe. I leaned against the kitchen counter, sliding to the floor. My knees hit tile. My chest burned. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stared at my own name and wondered how much of me they had stolen. But a thought crept in, cold and cutting. If they did this, what else have they done? I pulled open a dusty file box under my bed. Tax returns, credit card statements, old notebooks. I had to find a pattern. Had to find anything. And then, tucked in the back of a folder labeled medical, I found it. An unsigned loan agreement from years ago, typed in Daphne's favorite font, with my name, and a forged signature. A tremor moved through me. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "Stop digging, or else." I froze. The room felt suddenly smaller, the shadows sharper. Every creak in the apartment became a warning. I looked toward the window, drawn blinds. No movement. But something inside me whispered, "You're not safe anymore." I locked every account I had, froze my credit, reset every password, and yet my hands wouldn't stop shaking, because now I knew this wasn't just about money. This was war, and it started with family. I didn't sleep that night, not really. I just lay there, listening to the hum of the refrigerator, the faint crackle of heat through the old apartment vents, and the growing storm inside my chest. What else had they taken? My eyes drifted to the ceiling, but my mind pulled me back, years back, to a cheap kitchen table in a duplex that always smelled like microwave dinners and half-lit candles. I was 12. It was late August, the sticky kind of Chicago heat that made everything feel heavier. Shirts, air, expectations. I sat cross-legged on the linoleum floor, sorting through a plastic tub filled with coins. Pennies mostly. A few dimes. One crumpled $5 bill that felt like gold. I was trying to gather enough for my school supplies. I had a list scrawled in looping cursive. Folders, pencils, a calculator the teacher said we absolutely needed. I remember how the numbers didn't add up. I remember how that made me feel. In the other room, Vesper was unboxing a brand new iPhone. The soft sound of packaging being peeled back. The ping of the startup chime. Her excited squeal. I peeked through the doorway. Daphne stood behind her, smiling like a queen bestowing gifts. Her hand gently grazed Vesper's shoulder. She didn't look at me. That moment split me down the middle. Part of me wanted to believe I just had to earn it, to be better, more obedient, more useful. The other part already knew I wasn't the chosen one. I swallowed it down like I always did. Back in the present, I turned in bed, the sheets twisted around my legs like vines. Why had I never asked more questions back then? Because every time I did, I got answers that weren't answers. Like the time I confronted Daphne about the uneven allowance. She patted my cheek and said, "Elowen, you're the responsible one. Vesper's a dreamer. She needs extra help." But help always meant more money, more attention, more protection. While I handled chores, homework, bank deposits, yes, by 14, I was the one paying bills online because your father never figured out that tech junk. A strange pride formed in me back then, poisoned but potent. I started thinking maybe this was love. Maybe proving myself was the way in, but love shouldn't feel like proving your existence. It shouldn't mean keeping quiet when your mother comes home reeking of gin and bad luck at the casino. I remember one night, Daphne slammed the front door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. She'd lost again. Her voice echoed down the hallway. "Don't ask me about money tonight, I swear to God." And Vesper? She was curled up on the couch, blanketed in silk, holding out her hand for the necklace Daphne had promised her. No one even looked in my direction. Years of that. And somehow, I still tried. I cleaned up the messes. I ran errands. I answered Daphne's emails pretending to be her assistant when she was too hungover to respond. And now, it made sense. Of course she knew how to fake my signature. She'd watched me type it for her 100 times. A buzzing in my skull snapped me back. It was my phone. Another notification from the IRS portal. I turned it over so the screen faced the bed. I couldn't look anymore tonight. I sat up slowly, feet brushing the cold floor. The moonlight slipped through the blinds in bars across the carpet, like prison cell shadows. My throat was dry. I walked to the kitchen. The light from the fridge spilled over the old tile as I poured water. Then, a sound. Soft. Barely there. A whisper of fabric. Like someone shifting behind a wall. I froze, held my breath, waited. Nothing. Still, I padded toward the front door. Checked the locks, deadbolt, latch, chain. All secure. But it still didn't feel sealed. I stood there a minute longer, listening. The kind of listening that isn't just for sound, but for truth. And then, without thinking, I whispered aloud, "What else did you do, Mom?" It wasn't just the money. It couldn't be. The forged signature, the ghost loans, the voice in my gut whispered it too. This was only the tip of it. I walked to my desk and pulled open a drawer. Old bills, a few letters, one from Daphne that I hadn't opened since Christmas. It was sealed with gold foil wax. Her special paper. I cracked it open. Just one line inside. "Don't forget who got you here." No signature, just that. My fingers crumpled the paper slowly. Not in anger, in recognition. She never saw me as a daughter. I was a resource, an investment. And like any gambler, she was now cashing out. The thought made my skin crawl. I turned on every light in the apartment, sat on the floor with my back to the wall, knees pulled up tight. And that's when something else flickered through my mind, a memory I hadn't let surface in years. I was 15. Daphne came home one night crying, a real shoulder-shaking sob. She poured herself a drink, sat beside me on the couch. "Elle," she whispered, "if anything ever happens to me, you'll take care of Vesper, won't you?" I didn't answer. I just nodded. Because back then, I still thought love was obedience. Now I see it clearly. That wasn't a moment of maternal tenderness. That was a transfer of burden. And maybe, just maybe, that was the moment she decided I owed her my life. But not anymore. Because this time, I'm digging. And I won't stop. I just don't know who will come for me when I do. The sun was barely up when I made the call. My voice sounded hollow, even to me. "Hi, I need to speak to someone about a tax notice. There's been a mistake." The hold music felt like a looped punishment. Soft piano meant to soothe, but all it did was grind against the panic tightening my throat. I'd barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the debt total flash behind my eyelids like a curse. $45,000, not a dime of it mine. A click. The voice of a tired IRS agent filtered through the line. "Name? Social? Date of birth?" I gave it all, quietly, carefully, like confessing. There was a pause. Then, "Yes. I see the file. These charges stem from consulting income reported in 2023, filed electronically. The breakdown includes online retail income, social media royalties, and affiliate partnerships." I felt my heart drop. "Can you tell me who reported it?" The filer was listed as self-employed under Vesper Ventures LLC, registered in Chicago under your name and address. I almost dropped the phone. Vesper. She'd used her brand, her little side hustle of peddling skincare and affiliate codes, to file income under my name. "I didn't report that income," I said, swallowing hard. "That's not me." Another long pause. "You'll need to open a fraud investigation. I can transfer you to that department, but you'll also need documentation to support your claim. Police report, identity affidavit, anything proving you didn't authorize these filings." I thanked him, though I had no idea what I was thanking him for. When the call ended, I just sat there on the kitchen floor, bare knees against cold tile, the phone still in my hand. My reflection stared back at me from the oven glass. I looked like someone I didn't know. I grabbed my laptop and started digging. Emails, bank records, anything that didn't belong. It didn't take long. In my inbox, a confirmation email from a credit card company I'd never used, dated 9 months ago. Subject line, "Thank you for applying." I opened it. My name, my birthday, my address, except the email it was linked to wasn't mine. It was one letter off. Elowen.Marciusoutlook instead of Gmail, a ghost version of me. My hands moved faster than my thoughts. I opened old folders, scanned through PDFs, and then I saw it, an old credit application with my forged signature. It was near perfect. I wouldn't have known it was fake if I hadn't seen what I had actually signed that day. A chill prickled the back of my neck. Suddenly my phone lit up. A text. Unknown number. Stop digging. Or else. I stared at it. The words didn't blink, but I did. Once. Twice. Hard enough to feel tears press behind my eyes. I wanted to believe it was a prank. I really did. But my stomach knew better. The timing wasn't random. They knew. Someone knew. The light in my apartment had shifted. It was still morning, but everything felt off color, like the sun was struggling to break through. Shadows stretched longer than they should. The air smelled metallic, like static or fear. I clicked open Vesper's Instagram out of pure instinct. There she was, posing in front of a luxury SUV tagged in Miami. I zoomed in on her handbag, the same one from the purchase history in my IRS notice. I felt my jaw clench hard, not just at the theft, but the audacity, the ease. She was flaunting what she stole from me, and smiling while doing it. I screenshot everything. Every tagged location, every high-priced item, every fake little caption dripping with pretend gratitude. Then I dug deeper, into the connected accounts, the shell companies. And there it was. Her brand's tax ID, linked directly to my name. They hadn't just used me, they'd built an entire business on my back. I picked up the phone again, this time to file a police report. The woman on the other end of the line was kind, but clinical. Asked me if I felt physically threatened. I hesitated. "No," I said. "No. Not yet." Because I didn't know if that text was a bluff or a warning. But the truth was, I did feel hunted. Not by strangers, but by people who knew exactly how I thought, how I moved, how I trusted. I closed the report, wrote down the incident number, pinned it to my corkboard, and then I locked every financial account I had, credit freeze, password resets, alerts set for any new activity under my social. But even after all that, my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Because this wasn't just fraud, it was betrayal. And betrayal from family doesn't bruise the skin, it bruises reality. Hours passed. I didn't eat, didn't shower. I just sat there watching the screen refresh every few minutes, waiting for the next blow to land. But the next blow didn't come from a screen. It came from a knock. Soft. 2 taps. I didn't move. Then a voice. Thin, sing-songy, unmistakably hers. "Elle? It's Mom." My spine turned to ice. "I just want to talk, sweetheart." She'd never used that tone unless she wanted something. The last time she called me sweetheart, she emptied my savings under the excuse of an emergency tax bill. I didn't answer, didn't even breathe. I moved slowly, silently, back toward the living room, glancing through the peephole. She wasn't alone. Vesper stood behind her, smirking. My fingers hovered over the lock, but I didn't touch it, because something in their faces told me this wasn't a visit. It was a warning, and suddenly I knew. They weren't just afraid of what I'd found. They were planning what I hadn't yet discovered. The elevator hissed upward like a held breath, each floor number glowing red against polished steel. I could taste copper on my tongue, anger or maybe adrenaline. My fist tightened around the thick envelope that held the IRS notice. The edges cut into my palm, a small pain that kept me steady. 42nd floor. Ding. The doors peeled open onto a hallway washed in designer silence. Diffused sconces, vanilla orchid air freshener, carpet so plush my boots sank an inch. Daphne's condo sat at the end, double doors of lacquered mahogany gleaming under recessed light, a fortress pretending to be a home. Knuckles met wood, 3 rapid strikes that echoed down the hall. Before I could knock again, one door swung inward. Vesper. She leaned against the frame, lipstick perfect, phone in hand, a powder blue Hermes dangling from her wrist like a trophy. Her smile was the kind you reserve for paparazzi or prey. "Well, if it isn't the responsible one," she purred. I stepped past her before the invitation came. The condo smelled of bergamot and fresh cash. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Chicago skyline. Crystal decanters on the bar tossed sunlight across marble countertops. Everything sparkled, including the lie. Daphne waited in the living room, perched on a white leather chaise, pearl earrings, tailored navy jumpsuit, and that familiar half-tilt of her chin. Regal, untouchable. Only the slight twitch at the corner of her mouth betrayed the surprise she tried to hide. "You should have called first, sweetheart." Her voice buttered the air. I let the envelope slap the glass coffee table. Papers spilled, stark and damning. "What is this?" She lifted a single page with manicured fingers, skimmed it, then exhaled a soft laugh. "It's called adulthood, Elowen. Bills, taxes, things you never seem to manage without help." Heat flared behind my eyes. "Help? You forged my signature. You hijacked my social. You ran a business under my name." Vesper's phone camera clicked. She was recording. She flicked her hair and swung the handbag into view, tag still attached. "Maybe relax? You sound ungrateful." Ungrateful. The word cracked something deep. A flash surfaced. 12-year-old me counting coins for notebooks while Vesper flaunted a new phone. Daphne's voice then. "Let Elowen handle the boring stuff. She's good at responsibility." I tasted that bitterness now, aged and sharper. I grabbed a crystal coaster, turned it between my fingers. "Responsibility doesn't mean servitude. I said no to your $50,000 demand, so you stole it anyway, plus interest." Daphne rose, heels tapping marble like slow gunshots. She set the paper down, crossed her arms. "We raised you. We protected you. Tell me, what's a little investment in your parents' future after everything we sacrificed?" My laugh came out ragged. "Sacrifice? You gambled my future away on handbags and roulette tables." For a split second, her eyes flickered, fear, shame, then hardened to frost. "Watch your tone." I leaned forward, voice low. "Or what? You'll take more IDs? My blood?" She stepped closer and whispered, just for me, "You think it's only me and Vesper? You have no idea who's holding the real strings." Her breath smelled of peppermint and menace. An icy thread ran down my spine. For years I'd chalked the chaos to Daphne's addiction, Vesper's entitlement. Now she hinted at something wider, someone I hadn't considered. The room felt suddenly smaller, ceiling lower, as if walls had started inching inward. I straightened. Then explain it, right now. She smirked. Why should I? You'll hand everything over eventually, just like always. Behind her, Vesper zoomed in on my face, camera gleaming. Rage trembled through my fingers. The coaster bit into my palm. I fought the urge to throw it. Instead, I grabbed the notice and slapped it against Daphne's chest so hard she staggered back a step. Paper fluttered to the floor like wounded birds. Her expression cracked, eyes wide, jaw clenched, before the mask slid back into place. Physical aggression? That's a bad look, dear. Courts don't favor violent daughters. I turned to her, voice calm but shaking underneath. Delete that video. She lifted a manicured brow. Make me. I advanced. She stumbled, surprise creasing her perfect foundation. Her phone slipped. I snatched it midair, thumbed the delete icon, and tossed the device onto a velvet chair. The satisfying thunk echoed. Daphne's heel scraped marble. Enough. She retrieved the phone, handed it back to Vesper, then faced me with a smile too polished to be human. We can settle this quietly. You withdraw the fraud report, unfreeze the accounts. In return, we'll reconsider the family disbursement. Your bribe is worthless, I said. I already filed the police report. The temperature in the condo seemed to plummet. Daphne's shoulders squared, pearls glinting like tiny moons. Then you'll live to regret it. Vesper's grin melted. Even she recognized that tone, the moment Daphne decided the gloves were off. My pulse hammered, but I met her stare. Funny thing about regret, it goes both ways. A long electric silence. Somewhere in the condo, an ice maker clattered, breaking the spell. Daphne inhaled, smoothing her jumpsuit, regaining poise. You should leave before you embarrass yourself further. I gathered the scattered papers, slid them back into the envelope. My hands no longer shook. They burned with clarity. One last look around, the opulence, the curated art, the borrowed glow of things she couldn't afford without my identity. I memorized it all, because I planned to burn it down, legally, publicly, completely. As I reached the doorway, Daphne called after me, sugar in her tone but acid underneath. Family is forever, Elowen. Remember that when the walls start closing in. I paused, turned. So is prison. Her smile twitched. In the hallway, the vanilla orchid scent felt cloying, like someone else's perfume on a borrowed jacket. I pressed the elevator button, heartbeat echoing in my ears. Doors slid shut. The mirrored interior reflected a flushed, wide-eyed woman clutching a battered envelope. I hardly recognized her, but I trusted her more than anyone. Halfway down, memories leaked in. 7-year-old me handing over chore money. 17-year-old me signing college paperwork that I never read. Each recollection sharpened into resolve. Ding, lobby. I stepped out into cool marble and glass. The slow beat of lobby jazz wrapped around me, soft but insistent. For the first time since this nightmare started, I exhaled, long, deliberate. They thought they'd scared me off. But I'd seen it. Just a flash, in Daphne's eyes when the papers hit her chest. Real fear, which meant I finally had leverage. Outside, wind gusted off the river, whipping my hair across my face. I hugged the envelope to my chest, a shield of thin paper and hard proof. They laughed me out, but I saw fear in their eyes. What are they planning? Wind whipped across the riverwalk, stinging my cheeks as I hurried away from Daphne's tower of glass. I kept replaying her threat, "You'll live to regret it," until my pulse matched the slap of my boots on wet concrete. My phone buzzed. Jasper. "Elle, pick up, now." I answered, breath white in the cold. "I'm here." "You're not going to like this," he said, voice tight. "Your name just lit up on a brand new mortgage, $200,000 signed last month." My lungs squeezed. "That's impossible." "It's real. Cook County Recorder's website. Property in Bronzeville. Your signature's on the deed." Traffic noise blurred into static. A gust rattled the river railing, metal groaning like warning bells. I pressed a finger to my temple, as if I could hold the world together with touch alone. "Meet me," Jasper said. "Same cafe, 15 minutes." I turned and started running. Inside, hazel and rye, cinnamon and espresso gave the air a false warmth. Jasper sat in a back booth, laptop open, lines of code reflecting off his glasses. He looked up, eyes apologetic, fingertips drumming the table in 6-beat bursts. He spun the screen toward me. There it was. Borrower, Elowen Marsh. An address I'd never set foot in, a signature that looked like mine, but rounder at the loops, Daphne's imitation, perfected. I sank into the vinyl seat, jacket still zipped. My palms left damp prints on the mug Jasper slid over. The cocoa burned my lip. I barely felt it. "I thought the IRS bill was the iceberg," I whispered. "This is the whole glacier." He pulled up a credit monitoring dashboard, red arrows everywhere. My score had nosedived 74 points overnight. Credit card utilization maxed, new inquiries blinking like sirens. Every notification felt like a slap. $7,400 furniture purchase, $3,900 landscaper deposit, Bronzeville house expenses, already. The cafe's playlist drifted to slow jazz, but inside my chest, drums pounded. I forced myself to inhale the coffee's steam, let it coat my throat before words came out brittle. How do I fight this? "We start a fraud affidavit, freeze everything again, and file a police supplement," Jasper said. He cleared his throat, voice edging frustration. "But Elle, the notary stamp on that deed? It's legit. Someone high up co-signed the paperwork." Daphne's earlier taunt echoed. "You have no idea who's holding the real strings." The floor beneath me felt thin, as if a single misstep could send me plunging into cold river water. I closed my eyes and, uninvited, a memory pushed forward. Sun-bleached living room, midsummer haze. I was 21, freshly graduated, Daphne waving a leather binder. "Sign here, darling, it's a family trust. Protects assets from probate." Vesper filmed the moment on her flip phone, giggling about legacy. I'd signed, eager for approval, ink bleeding through flimsy paper. No witness, no explanation, just Daphne's satisfied hum. Back in the cafe, I flexed my fingers. The phantom weight of that pen lingered, one careless stroke now chaining me to a house I'd never asked for. "Flashback?" Jasper asked softly. I nodded. My throat bobbed. "I gave her the weapon years ago." He reached across the table, tapped the laptop screen. She still needed a notary. Someone inside a bank or title company helped. That means bribery or leverage. Leverage. Daphne was drowning in casino IOUs. Favors were her oxygen. I pictured her sliding envelopes across green felt tables, promising pieces of my future. A glass shattered at the bar. I jolted, cocoa sloshing. Micro-action, but every nerve fired. The barista laughed it off, yet the crash vibrated straight through me, like a preview of my life breaking tile by tile. Jasper lowered his voice. "We can trace the paper trail, but it'll take pulling property records, subpoenas." "I'll do whatever it costs," I cut in, then realized the bitter irony. I had no credit left to pay for anything. He must have read the thought, his jaw set. "I've got you." Outside, dusk pressed blue against the windows. Streetlights flickered on, halos blurred by mist. For one slow beat, the world seemed hush-painted, everything smothered in watercolor gloom. I let the quiet seep into my veins, steadied my breath. Then my phone lit up again, unknown number. Same one that warned me before. I thumbed it open. "Mortgages tip easy. Houses burn faster. Stop." A tremor rippled through the cup. Liquid lapped against porcelain. Jasper read the message over my shoulder, hissed a curse. "They're watching live." I scanned the cafe, couples scrolling phones, a student scribbling, a man in a Cubs cap stirring tea too slowly, everyone a possibility. My heart tap-danced behind my ribs. "Come to my place," Jasper said. "We'll secure your Wi-Fi, scrub metadata, start pulling title history." I caught my reflection in the window. Eyes ringed red, shoulders hunched like I was bracing for hail. Daphne had done that, turning me into someone who flinched at shadows. "No," I said, surprising both of us. "I'm done hiding." I swallowed, voice steadier the second time. "We go to the bank that processed the loan. Tonight." He blinked. "It's after 6. Then we start at the property. If I'm supposedly living there, I want to see the roof I'm paying for." A reckless plan, maybe, but fear had calcified into something sharper. Purpose. I needed ground truth. Jasper packed his laptop, cords coiling like nervous snakes. We stepped into the drizzle. It needled my skin awake. He unlocked his Prius, heater blasting damp air that smelled of old coffee cups and pine tree danglers. As we merged south onto Lakeshore, city lights streaked across the windshield. Wipers swept rhythmic metronome for my thoughts. She forged. She lied. She escalated. One high-conflict scene, inevitable, waited at that address. 20 minutes later, we rolled onto a residential street of brick two-flats and skinny maples. Bronzeville's heart beat quieter than downtown, but porch lights glowed like watchful eyes. Jasper killed the headlights halfway down the block. "There," he whispered. The house was modern rehab, black trim, new roof, security camera winking red above the door. A for rent sign leaned against the steps. Call, Marsh Property Group. My stomach pitched. Marsh. Daphne had monetized my last name. I climbed out. Wet leaves clung to my boots, muffling footsteps. Jasper stayed behind me, phone ready. Each yard lamp buzzed softly, halos dancing with gnats. Up close, the lockbox on the knob blinked Bluetooth blue. High-tech, expensive. I traced the metal, then noticed fresh scuffs near the hinges. Someone had forced entry recently. A horn blared down the street. I flinched, then exhaled when it passed. Micro-tension, constant. "See inside?" Jasper murmured. I cupped my hands to the window. Hardwood floors, still dusty. Staging couch wrapped in plastic. Empty but prepped for tenants. A silhouette shifted at the back hallway. Quick, darting. I jerked away, pulse detonating. "Someone's in there," I breathed. We crouched behind a bush. My legs shook so violently the branches rustled. Jasper steadied me, thumb tapping an emergency dial he'd already cued. Through the blinds, the figure crossed the kitchen, flicking on a light. A woman, tall, blonde bun, designer purse, Vesper. She pulled out her phone, snapped photos of the living room, then pocketed something silver, maybe keys, and disappeared toward the rear door. I clutched Jasper's sleeve. "She's flipping the place, renting it out to strangers." He cursed under his breath. "They're laundering the money through property management." My mouth went desert dry. If the mortgage defaults, lenders come for me. Headlights swung into the driveway. A black SUV idled, engine low. Daphne slipped out, umbrella unfurling like a raven's wing. Vesper opened the back door. They loaded boxes. Paperwork? Electronics? Moving with urgent precision. A realization slammed me. They were clearing evidence. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number, last warning. I swallowed a surge of nausea. High conflict enough. Time to retreat. But as Jasper tugged my coat, a new dread crept in. Who else is involved? Not just a notary. Realtors, lenders, maybe a silent partner with deeper pockets. The SUV reversed down the driveway, taillights bleeding red across wet asphalt. We stayed put until it vanished, engine fade blending with distant sirens. Only then did I breathe. The night felt brittle, like one loud word could shatter it. "I need more than affidavits," I whispered. "I need allies, and proof they can't erase." Jasper nodded. "Tomorrow we trace every shell company. I'll stay over, set up a secure workstation." I managed a shaky smile, but inside terror twined with resolve. They'd taken my identity, my credit, now my name on a deed. What else are they hiding? The next morning cracked open like a bruise. Gray light seeped through my apartment blinds, soft and sour. I hadn't slept, just drifted in and out, eyes burning, body buzzing with static. Jasper had crashed on the couch, snoring softly now under a pile of mismatched blankets. I sat at the kitchen table, elbows pressed to its cold surface, watching my reflection shimmer in the screen of my locked phone. I hadn't dared check for more messages. The last one still echoed in my skull like a threat burned into the wallpaper. Mortgages tip easy. Houses burn faster. Stop. I couldn't stop. Behind me, Jasper stirred. A few seconds later, the coffee machine hissed to life. He padded into the kitchen, hair a mess, hoodie twisted halfway around. "We start with paper. Always paper," he muttered, voice hoarse. He flipped open his laptop, fingers already moving. The screen glowed in soft blue as he set up a dual monitor, cords snaking across my kitchen floor like roots. Jasper in firewall mode was something to behold, focused, sharp, terrifying in the way only someone who'd once hacked a senator's campaign site for fun could be. "You know those receipts from Vesper's Instagram haul?" he asked. I traced 2 of them. They were shipped under aliases, but they're all tied to your old college address. That place? I blinked. They haven't used it in years. They're counting on that, he said. If the trail looks cold, no one bothers to chase it. He clicked again, screen flicking between spreadsheets and receipts. Then he froze. What? I leaned in. This one, he said, tapping the screen. A shopping cart receipt from a boutique called Orsa Luna. $4,000 on jewelry. Tracked to a temp Gmail address. But the payment method... He turned the screen. It was my debit card. The one I shredded 2 years ago. My breath stuck. My fingers curled around the edge of the table so tightly my knuckles ached. That's not possible. They cloned the number before you canceled it, he said quietly. Been holding it in reserve. I looked around my own apartment like the walls might blink back. They'd held this long game for years, waited, watched. What else did they save? I asked. What else do they have? He didn't answer. Instead, he slid a fresh folder toward me. Printed bank statements, property records, tax filings, his own annotated notes in red pen. This is the start of a timeline, he said. Every false transaction, every alias, every connected email. We build the whole web, and when we're done, we hand it to the authorities. But not before I understand how they did it, I said. He nodded. Exactly. Outside, rain speckled the glass, a soft patter that filled the space between words. The radiator ticked under the windowsill, a familiar sound that grounded me in reality. But the moment of calm broke when I spotted an envelope slipped under my door. No knock, no footfalls. Just appeared. I rose, heart knocking against my ribs. I didn't touch it right away. Jasper watched. Glove? He asked, dead serious. I grabbed an oven mitt. The envelope was cream-colored, expensive, sealed with a gold sticker. No return address. Inside, a single sheet of paper. Stop, or they'll take everything. No signature, just that. Jasper cursed under his breath. That's not just intimidation, that's calculated escalation. I folded the note with care, slid it into a Ziploc. We document everything. He reached for his laptop again. Let's talk about the shell company you technically own. What shell company? Something called Elysian Oak Holdings, registered in Delaware last year. Address leads back to a virtual mailbox in Chicago. Tax ID is under your name. Used to lease a BMW and rent an office space in River North. My stomach turned. I've never even seen a BMW. He met my gaze. They're funneling everything through you now. It's not just theft, it's money laundering. I went cold. Not angry, not sad. Just cold. Like my soul took one long step away to watch this unravel from a distance. I need air, I muttered, already grabbing my coat. We stepped outside. The wind was sharp, slicing through my jacket, but it helped me breathe. The street was quiet, too quiet. Every pedestrian looked like a suspect. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching. Do you think they're tracking my phone? I asked. Jasper frowned. Not impossible, let's disable location. But more importantly, don't respond to any messages. Not until we reroute everything through a secure VPN. He pulled out a small black USB stick from his pocket. I brought this. It'll wipe any spyware on your system and force end-to-end encryption. He wasn't just helping, he was protecting. I stopped walking, heart suddenly too full. Why are you doing this for me? He looked at me, for real this time, not just as a fixer or friend, but with something deeper in his expression. Because you didn't ask for any of this, he said, and because I know what it feels like to have your life stolen before you even had the chance to live it. His voice cracked on the last word. A silence settled between us. Not uncomfortable, just real. We headed back upstairs. The apartment felt different now, more like a war room than a sanctuary. He sat down, tapped a few keys, and then paused. There's one more thing, he said. My breath caught. This, he said, spinning the screen again, is a pattern. He pulled up timestamps from multiple purchases, matched them to Vesper's social posts, cross-referenced them against Daphne's casino visits, and there it was, a correlation. Every time Daphne lost more than $10,000 at the casino, my accounts took a hit within 48 hours. The gambling wasn't just background noise, it was the motive. My identity was her collateral. They were bleeding me to feed her addiction. I stared at the screen until it blurred. Then we follow the trail, I said, until it leads to something they can't bury. Jasper looked up. We're close. But the deeper we dig, the more dangerous this gets. I didn't flinch. Let them come. He nodded once, then turned back to the screen. But before he could type, the buzzer downstairs rang. Sharp, loud, unmistakable. We froze. He looked at me. You expecting someone? I shook my head. The buzzer rang again. Then a voice crackled through the intercom. Faint, unfamiliar. But it sent a chill straight through my spine. Miss Marsh, you need to stop what you're doing. This isn't a game. Jasper moved toward the door, but I grabbed his arm, because whoever that was, they weren't bluffing. The intercom buzz still echoed in my ears long after the voice faded. Miss Marsh, this isn't a game. Jasper locked eyes with me. Don't answer it. I wasn't planning to, I said, though my legs were already stiff with the urge to run. We stayed frozen by the door, listening for footsteps. Nothing. Just the low hum of the hallway light and the distant creak of an elevator somewhere above. After a minute, Jasper pulled back the curtain a sliver. Hallway's clear, no one outside the door. I exhaled slowly, but it didn't help. That voice, it wasn't Daphne's, it wasn't Vesper's, it was deeper, flat, like someone who didn't need to threaten twice. I think they've moved past intimidation, I whispered. Jasper didn't reply. He just unplugged my router, slid his portable hotspot into a USB port, and began scanning my system again like he expected a virus to crawl out of it. I needed air, answers, something. I turned toward the kitchen for another coffee when I saw it. A folded envelope, this one inside the apartment, sitting dead center on the windowsill behind the curtains. My skin chilled instantly. Jasper. He turned. What? I pointed. He blinked, then grabbed latex gloves from his bag. We'd gotten to that stage, handling messages from family like forensic evidence. He peeled the flap open carefully, eyes scanning left to right. One sentence, inked in delicate cursive. Stop, or they'll take everything. Same words as the last note, but different paper, different ink, and this time, a postmark from Toledo, Ohio. Why Toledo? I asked. Jasper studied the envelope again. No return address. Stamped at a sorting center near a closed commercial strip. Dead town for money laundering. My stomach twisted. So they're sending these from places they know are hard to trace. Not just hard, he said. Deliberate. They want us guessing in the dark. He moved back to the laptop, pulled up Vesper's Instagram. She just posted a pic 3 hours ago, matching earrings to her new car vibes. Look. He zoomed in. The background was familiar. Concrete walls, blue-gray tint, layered rust on steel beams. I leaned in. That's the Union parking deck, Wacker Drive. Downtown, Jasper muttered. You think she's still there? I don't know, I said. But if she is, I want to know who's driving that car and how she paid for it. He hesitated. You want to go now? I nodded. 15 minutes later, we were heading into the city, taillights blurring in the misty rain, wipers ticking, my heart beat loud in the silence between each pass. We pulled into the lower level of the garage. Fluorescents buzzed overhead, flickering like bad nerves. The air smelled of motor oil and wet concrete. We walked slowly, level by level. On the 3rd floor, we spotted it, a white Mercedes GLE, dealer tag still on the front, exact match to Vesper's story. We circled it. Jasper checked the plate, temporary registration, masked with a sticker on the rear window. Filed under a leasing company, he said. Owned by... He blinked. Elysian Oak Holdings. I closed my eyes. That name again. The fake LLC tied to me. Inside the passenger seat was a folder. I moved closer to the window. It was open, pages fanned out like someone left in a hurry. On top, a notarized document with my name. Jasper cursed under his breath. They're using the car as a mobile office. A door slammed behind us. I turned fast, too fast, stumbled into Jasper. A man in a hooded jacket was walking toward us. Slow, calculated, not running, not smiling. He stopped 20 feet away. This isn't your concern anymore. My throat tightened. You've got 5 seconds to back off. He didn't blink. She warned you. Now I'm here to end it. He stepped forward. Jasper moved faster than I could react, pulling me back and flashing his phone. One more step, and your face is on 10 security cams. The man paused. Then, without another word, turned and walked away, straight into the stairwell. Gone. Jasper grabbed my arm. We need to go. Now! As we drove off, I felt it, that shift. This wasn't about my mother anymore. This was organized, professional, and worse, prepared. Back in my apartment, Jasper downloaded the stairwell footage from the garage's public feed. We caught one angle, just enough to catch the man pulling off his hood and speaking into a phone. He looked young, too young, mid-20s maybe, neatly trimmed beard, calm, corporate calm. This guy doesn't work for Daphne, Jasper muttered. This is someone else entirely. Then who the hell is paying him? I asked. He didn't answer. We spent the next hour back in data tunnels. Jasper started tracing the holding company again, trying to follow every bank transfer it made. Then, just after midnight, something clicked. He turned the screen to me. They paid off an old tax lien under your name 6 months ago, $40,000. My eyes widened. They paid my fake debts to clean the books. He nodded. And you know what happens when they start laundering clean paper? They're about to disappear. Jasper looked straight at me. We're close. That's why they're pushing back now. The apartment was cold. I wrapped the blanket tighter around my shoulders, fingers curled into fists beneath the fabric. I thought I'd felt betrayal before, but this was something deeper. They were erasing me in layers, digitally, legally, financially, a slow vanishing. And yet, I was still here, still breathing, still watching, still angry. My phone buzzed again. No number, just a single image. A photo of my building taken from across the street, timestamp 5 minutes ago. The message below it said, "We see you, time's up." The photo on my phone stared back at me. My apartment building, grainy in the night, time-stamped 5 minutes ago. "We see you, time's up." My chest constricted. Not fear exactly, something colder. The awareness of being prey. Jasper read over my shoulder. "We're leaving, now." We didn't even pack, just grabbed wallets, the hard drives, his laptop, the Ziploc bag with the threat notes. I left my lights on, as if we were still home, and double-locked the door. It felt like locking a paper box. Outside, the street was silent. No black SUV, no shadowy figure behind a tree, just the usual stillness of 2:17 a.m. that somehow felt wrong, too staged, like the calm in a movie, right before glass shatters. We didn't speak until we reached Jasper's place. A fifth-floor walk-up with no elevator and no security system to be hacked. Just a rusted deadbolt and a chain that had clearly survived decades of Chicago winters. He put on tea. I paced. "What do they want now?" I asked. "They've already gutted me." "They're not done," Jasper said. "They're scared. That means you've hit something close to the bone." He had a point. Still, that didn't explain why someone was watching my building, or how that letter made it inside my locked apartment. We ran diagnostics on every camera, every file, no spyware, no active tracking, just clean systems and corrupted peace of mind. Eventually, we both dozed off. Jasper on the couch. I curled in a quilt in the corner, one hand still on my phone like a panic button. At 4:41 a.m., I woke to glass breaking. It wasn't a dream. I sat up, heart hammering in my throat. Jasper jolted awake at the sound of the second crash, the window in his kitchen. We both froze. Then, footsteps, slow, deliberate, inside. Jasper motioned for me to stay low. He grabbed a metal flashlight from his desk and stepped silently toward the hall. The apartment creaked. A shadow passed across the hallway wall. Then I heard voices, one low and urgent, the other unmistakable. Vesper's. "No, not that drawer. It's in her laptop bag. Just grab it and go." I couldn't move. My breath caught somewhere behind my ribs. They were inside. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers and hit record. Then I slipped into the hallway, pressing myself against the wall, just as Jasper stepped out behind them, flashlight raised. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" His voice was sharp, no hesitation. Daphne spun first. She had something in her hand, maybe a flashlight, maybe something worse. Vesper held my laptop bag, half zipped. They froze. Then Daphne smirked. "Just retrieving what belongs to us." "By breaking into my apartment?" Jasper hissed. "You know what she's done," Daphne said, turning to me now. "You made this war, Elowen." My throat tightened. "I made it when I stopped letting you steal from me." Vesper scoffed. "You owe us." "Owe you?" My voice cracked. "For what? For forging my signature? For stealing my name? For using me to bankroll your life? Daphne stepped forward, too calm. You were always the one with the strong spine. That's why we trusted you to carry it all. I blinked. That word, trusted. It tasted foul coming from her mouth. Jasper's voice cut through. You've got 30 seconds to get out before the cops show up. Everything you touched is recorded. Vesper's smirk faltered. Daphne's gaze sharpened. Then she did something I'll never forget. She reached into her coat pocket, pulled out a flash drive, and held it out toward me. I was going to destroy this, she said, but I think you should see what's really going on. I didn't move. Take it, Elowen, she said, and ask yourself who started this. I stepped forward slowly, grabbed it, and backed away. Daphne nodded once. Good. You'll see we're not the only ones hiding things. And just like that, they turned and left. The broken window swung in the breeze, letting in the sirens that began howling down the block 30 seconds later. By 6:12 a.m., the police had taken a report. Jasper's window was taped over with cardboard. I sat at his desk, flash drive in hand, trying to decide whether it was bait, a threat, or both. I clicked it open. Dozens of files. Most were PDFs and photos, bank statements, fake leases, forged IDs, but one folder was labeled Insurance. Inside, I found videos, surveillance footage apparently filmed from inside some kind of luxury condo, conversations between Daphne and someone I didn't recognize, a man in a tailored navy suit. He spoke casually, like this was just business. In one video, I heard him say, "If she talks, we pull the plug on everything. You know the deal." Daphne didn't argue. She just sipped her drink. I scrolled through the metadata, timestamps lined up perfectly with the month they took out the mortgage under my name. The man was orchestrating something, and Daphne was just a piece of it. Jasper leaned over my shoulder. Who is he? No idea, I said, but he's not scared of her. She answers to him. There was one more file, a scanned contract, no logo, no legal firm listed. Just signatures, one mine, one Daphne's. Forged, obviously. But the third? Jasper, I whispered, can you trace this signature? He was already on it. We sat in silence as the light turned from blue to gold behind the taped-up window. Somewhere in the city, the man in the suit was still out there, still watching. The last file finished uploading to the database Jasper had built. When it did, he turned to me slowly. Elowen, he said, we've got a new name. I braced myself. It's not just a man, it's a holding group, and your name's on more than a mortgage. I swallowed. What does that mean? He stared at the screen. It means you don't just owe them money. He clicked once more. It means you're listed as a guarantor for someone else's criminal debt. I couldn't speak, because suddenly it wasn't just identity theft. It was fraud, federal level, and I was the face of it. And somewhere out there, they were still one step ahead. Morning light crawled across Jasper's living room floor, thin as a scar. Dust motes drifted through the beam, lazy, unaware that our world had detonated a few hours earlier. His apartment still smelled of cold tea and broken glass. The taped-up window whispered whenever the wind shifted, reminding us how easily a life splits open. Jasper sat hunched over twin monitors, hoodie hood pulled tight, fingertips skating a wireless mouse with surgical flicks. My job was simple: breathe and not crumble. I hugged a mug of coffee gone lukewarm, feeling its rim sweat against my palm. A low click, then a hissed curse. What? My voice cracked from disuse. I just cracked the last layer on Daphne's offshore transfers. He tapped a key. Green code collapsed into rows of neat numbers. Look! 6 digits glared back. 302,140.11, all wired to Belle Fortuna Casino over 18 months. Always after midnight. Always from shell accounts that traced back to me. My stomach caved in on itself. 300,000. She gambled everything? Everything and more, Jasper said. Her losing streak started the month your credit first spiked. Every new debt patch was her doubling down. I squeezed the mug. Ceramic creaked under my grip. A memory clawed forward. Late June heat, age 16. Me in the back seat of Daphne's Lexus, parked behind a riverfront casino. Neon lights bled through the windshield, painting her face in oily reds and greens. She dabbed lipstick, promised she'd be 10 minutes, left me with the radio humming and the smell of her Chanel No. 5 ghosting the leather. 10 minutes became 3 hours. She returned glass-eyed, knuckles white on the steering wheel, whispering, "Just bad luck tonight, sweetheart." I'd believed her. Back in the present, Jasper slid a printed ledger toward me. "These are the cash advances she took out last week, against your guarantor file." Ink blurred as tears flooded my vision. I blinked them away. They landed on the table like tiny comets. A phone vibrated, shrill in the small room. Not mine, Jasper's. Caller ID, Vesper. He handed it over. "She asked for you." I hesitated, then swiped. Vesper's voice rushed through, brittle, frantic. "Elle, Mom's losing it. She's screaming at the walls. She thinks the casino's sending people. We need money now. Please." I cut her off, words icicles. "You emptied my accounts, forged my name, loaded me with criminal debt, and now you want help?" Silence on the line, broken only by muffled sobs and a distant crash. Glass, maybe a lamp. "She's tearing the condo apart," Vesper whispered. "I've never seen her like this." "Then call an ambulance," I said, "because the bank is closed." I ended the call. My hand shook so hard I almost dropped the phone. Jasper watched, eyes heavy with sympathy that didn't dull the rage burning behind them. Wind rattled the taped window, slow beat, the room holding its breath. I set the phone down and traced the rim of a coaster, grounding myself in the texture of cork. "Her addiction ruined me," I whispered. "How do I stop a spiral that's already swallowed everything?" Jasper opened a fresh document, the glow painting his face ghost pale. "We file the gambling reports with the IRS Fraud Division. The casino records, the bank logs, you have proof now. We also subpoena surveillance footage from Belle Fortuna. If the casino enables laundering, they're complicit." I nodded, though each step felt like climbing an icy ladder barefoot. "And the guarantor contract?" "That goes to Detective Quinn, Federal Fraud Task Force." He paused. "But we'll need a narrative strong enough to survive Daphne's lawyers." My phone lit again, an unknown text. A single line, tick-tock. I showed Jasper. He muttered another curse, then pulled security feeds from the street outside. Static, then a frame. A dark sedan idling across from his building, headlights off. The driver wore a cap, face shadowed, phone pressed to ear. "They're muscle," Jasper said. "They're watching her and us." I forced a steady inhale, the tea leaf scent mingling with dust. "Fine, let them watch, but we get ahead." He smiled grimly and plugged in a new portable drive. "Let's back everything up. 3 locations, including the cloud bucket they don't know exists." While data streamed, I scrolled Daphne's bank PDFs. Buried in the middle was a memo line I hadn't noticed. "Marker repayment, Mariposa Group." My pulse stumbled. "That's the holding group you found last night." Jasper leaned over, eyes narrowing. "Casino markers go to private lenders when high rollers default. Mariposa's not a lender. It's a debt shark disguised as venture capital." He looked at me. "That man in the suit works for them." Thunder rumbled outside, the first drops of a summer storm spattering the window tape. Streetlights flickered. Jasper's monitors stuttered, then steadied. We both jumped when a fist hammered the apartment door. 3 slow knocks, then a pause, then 3 more, deliberate, code-like. Jasper killed the monitors, signaled me to stay silent. Footsteps shuffled on the other side, then the scrape of metal, someone testing the lock. I edged toward the kitchen, fingers closing around the heavy flashlight Daphne had threatened us with hours earlier. Every inch of me buzzed, but my breath slowed, sharpened. No more prey. "Jasper," I mouthed. 911. He had the phone halfway up when a thick envelope slid under the door. Footsteps retreated, quick, fading down the stairs. No more knocks. We waited a full minute before moving. I knelt, picked up the envelope. Rainwater dotted the flap. Whoever dropped it had walked through the storm. Inside, a single casino chip. Black, $1,000 denomination. Taped to it a note on Belle Fortuna stationery. Debt due at dawn. Dawn was 3 hours away. Lightning flashed, illuminating Jasper's pale face. "They're calling your bluff," he said. "If you don't pay, they come for collateral." I turned the chip between my fingers, its ridged edge biting skin. Something in me snapped taut, not fear this time, but resolve crystalline and cold. They want me at the casino, I said. Fine, I'll go. Jasper grabbed my arm. It's a trap. I know, I answered, but traps swing both ways if you spring them right. Rain hammered the building now, drums on tin. I pocketed the chip, stood taller than I felt. Gather everything. We meet Detective Quinn in 1 hour, then we walk into Belle Fortuna with federal backup, or we don't walk in at all. Thunder boomed so loud the floor trembled. Jasper nodded. I'll make the call. As he dialed, I stared out at the storm, watching car headlights smear across wet asphalt like streaks of molten glass. Somewhere inside those shadows, Daphne was drowning in debts she'd tried to pass to me. And somewhere deeper, Mariposa Group was waiting for dawn. They thought I'd break. I tightened my fist around the chip until its metal imprint etched my skin. I'd see them at sunrise. Belle Fortuna rose from the sidewalk like a threat dressed in neon. Blue and crimson lights blinked in rhythm, bouncing off the slick asphalt where rain had turned to mist. Dawn hadn't broken yet, but the sky above us glowed gunmetal gray, restless, heavy. I adjusted the collar of my coat and stared at the entrance. Inside, they were waiting. Jasper stood beside me, hands in his pockets, voice low. Quinn's on her way. She's bringing backup, but we don't go in until we get the green light. I nodded, but my body pulsed with unease. I wasn't sure if it was adrenaline or something darker, something primal. I was tired of playing defense, tired of flinching. If they wanted a confrontation, I'd give them one. The chip was still in my coat pocket, its weight absurd for its size. I could feel its edges biting through fabric. Tick-tock, I muttered. A dark sedan pulled up across the street. Not speeding, not stalling. It stopped and sat, engine humming. The windows were tinted too dark to see through, but I felt the stare. They're here, Jasper whispered. Then came the text. Go in alone. The timing wasn't a coincidence. They were watching us in real time. My scalp prickled, sweat rising despite the cold. I handed Jasper the drive with all our files. If I'm not out in 20, you hand that over to Quinn. No. Jasper, I have to see what this is. They need me to walk in. That means I still have leverage. He didn't like it, but he understood. He gave a stiff nod, eyes flaring behind his glasses. You get any signal of trouble? I blow this whole thing open. I crossed the street. The air inside Belle Fortuna was thick with perfume, cheap cologne, and desperation. Slot machines blinked and chimed, but no one smiled. The early morning gamblers were mostly ghosts, staring blankly, tapping buttons like it was muscle memory. A soundtrack of broken dreams. At the far end of the room stood a private elevator. A suited man waited beside it, earpiece tucked behind his jaw. He didn't ask for my name, just pressed the button when I approached and nodded once. We rose in silence. Elevator walls mirrored my reflection back at me. Pale face, lips tight, shoulders squared like I could actually fight off whatever waited above. The doors opened to a lounge so quiet it hurt. Carpet swallowed footsteps. Chandeliers flickered soft amber light across velvet walls and brass-framed art. Landscapes too beautiful for a place like this. A single table stood at the center, green felt lined in black trim. And sitting there was him. The man from the surveillance video. The suit. The one Daphne answered to. He didn't look up, just gestured to the seat across from him. I sat. His voice was smoother than I expected. You've been busy, Miss Marsh. I didn't answer. He opened a black folder and pulled out a photo. Me at 16, sitting in Daphne's car, staring at the casino through the windshield. My stomach twisted. He smiled faintly. Your first exposure to risk. You watched her lose 10 grand that night. I was a kid. You were being trained. His words landed like slaps, deliberate, precise. I didn't sign up for this, I said. He folded his hands. But you did sign, multiple times. Loans, deeds, business licenses. Forged. He tilted his head. Prove it. My throat closed. His smile widened. That's the beautiful thing about paper trails, Elowen. The ones you don't write are still yours to bear until someone else proves otherwise. A pause, then soft. Unless you make this easy. What do you want? He slid another photo across the table, this one of Jasper. Your hacker friend's poking too deep. I swallowed bile. He's 10 steps ahead of you. No. His voice stayed calm. He's 6 steps behind, and if you don't walk away, he'll be gone in 4. A bead of sweat slipped down my back. Here's what happens, he continued. You sign over control of Elysian Oak Holdings. You drop all police reports. You disappear from their headlines. We wipe the debt, clean slate. I stared at the chip in my pocket. That's not an offer, I said. That's extortion. It's business, and frankly, your family has no more value. Then why not just bury me? He leaned in. Because your name still matters. It's clean enough, useful, marketable. I felt it then. What this really was. I wasn't the target. I was a product. I stood. You'll get your answer, I said, when the feds arrive. His eyes narrowed. You brought them here? I never walk into a casino alone. The door behind me opened, and there she was, Daphne, her hair wild, eyes too bright, wrists trembling. You dragged us into this, she spat. You could have just played your part. I did play my part, I said. I survived you. She lunged. Security grabbed her before she reached me, but not before her nails scraped down my arm, red lines blossoming through my sleeve. I gave you everything, she screamed. No, I whispered. You took everything. I turned and walked out, heart punching my ribs, the chip clattering to the carpet behind me. Downstairs, Quinn met me outside with 2 plainclothes agents. They're moving in now, she said. Jasper rushed to me, eyes wide. Are you okay? I nodded once, even though my hands shook and my pulse felt like a siren. We've got enough to tie Elysian Oak to wire fraud and racketeering, Quinn said, but it's deeper than we thought. Offshore accounts, false medical billing, even a trafficking lead in play. I closed my eyes. The air smelled like rain and smoke. Somewhere above, dawn was finally breaking, but as we turned to leave, a security guard ran out from the casino. There's more, he panted. One of our guys found this taped under the elevator console. He handed over a small, padded envelope. Inside, a flash drive. No label, no note. Just one line written in permanent marker. Next, you. The flash drive sat on the table like it was ticking. Quinn stared at it, her brow furrowed. Jasper hovered behind her, arms crossed, lips pressed so tight they'd gone white. The cheap motel lamp buzzed overhead, casting shadows that flickered like ghosts across the wallpaper. None of us spoke for a long time. I felt numb. Not the kind that comes after trauma, but the kind that precedes something worse. A premonition, like your body knows what your brain's still denying. Quinn broke the silence. This wasn't left for Daphne, or the man in the lounge. It's personal, it's for you. I know, I said, but my voice didn't sound like mine. Jasper looked at me. Do you want to be alone when we open it? No, if this goes sideways, I want you both there. Quinn inserted the drive. It clicked softly, almost polite. Then a folder popped open. One file, no name, just a timestamp, dated 12 years ago. She double-clicked. The screen lit up with grainy security footage, shaky, poorly framed, a hallway, hospital green paint, fluorescent lighting, a woman stumbling toward the camera. I leaned forward. My pulse kicked. It was her, Daphne. Younger, thinner, wearing a nurse's coat that didn't fit. She was dragging something, no, someone, a wheelchair. In it was a man, hooked up to an IV, face swollen, bruised, breathing but barely. Jasper cursed under his breath. The video cut. Then came another. Same hallway hours later. The man was gone. So was Daphne. Just an orderly walking by, sipping coffee, completely unaware a body had been smuggled out of the building hours earlier. Quinn hit pause. That's your father. I swallowed hard. I thought he died in a car crash. That's what Daphne made you believe. The air went razor thin. Another video loaded. This one was a private room. Same hospital. A conversation. Daphne stood at the foot of a bed, talking to someone off camera. You'll get the payout, she said, but the kid never finds out. I want the records sealed. I don't care what you have to forge. A male voice, calm, clipped. She'll ask questions eventually. Daphne snapped. Then I'll make sure she's too broken to ask. The room fell silent after that. Even the buzzing lamp seemed to hush. Jasper muttered, Jesus. But all I could hear was the rush of blood in my ears, a tidal wave swallowing 12 years of grief, lies, and silence. My dad hadn't died by accident. He'd been taken, hidden, discarded. by her. I stood, suddenly needing to move, to breathe, to escape. The motel room pressed in on all sides. My stomach roiled. I pushed through the door and into the parking lot, the night air slapping my face like ice water. Behind me, the door creaked as Jasper followed. He didn't say anything, just stood a few feet away, watching me fall apart in real time. I laughed bitterly. She killed him, for money and control. She buried you in grief to make you easier to mold. My throat tightened. And I bought it. I mourned her lies like they were sacred. He stepped closer. You were a kid, Elle. She made sure you never stood a chance. I looked up at the stars, so bright, so indifferent. And then it hit me, the twist buried in the video. Not just the betrayal, the timing, the date on the footage. Same week I was hospitalized after my so-called accidental fall from the stairs. The fall that left me with a concussion. The fall no one witnessed. She drugged me, I whispered. She needed me sedated that week. Jasper's face darkened. She covered it up with bruises and a story about clumsiness. I clenched my fists, nails dug into my palms. It was all orchestrated, every move, every scar. Suddenly, Quinn called from the doorway. There's more. Back inside, she showed us a file, encrypted, hidden behind the video footage. It took Jasper 15 minutes to crack, but when he did, it opened a PDF, dozens of scanned pages, birth certificates, DNA reports, adoption files. My name? Daphne's. And another. Who the hell is Elaine Porter? I asked. Quinn's eyes widened. She's your mother. My mouth went dry. Jasper scrolled quickly, skimming text. Elaine Porter gave birth at Mercy General, July 1993. Baby girl Elowen, but custody transferred days later, sealed by court order. Quinn pointed. The signatures. Look at the notary. That's Daphne's name. She arranged everything, even changed your records. A flicker of a memory surfaced, so small I'd almost forgotten. A woman with auburn hair standing by my bed when I was 5, crying, holding my hand, then gone. I thought it was a dream, but it wasn't. Daphne stole me. I staggered back like I'd been punched. Why would she? Because you were valuable, Quinn said softly. Your birth mother was wealthy, sick. She didn't think she'd survive. Daphne saw an opportunity, took it. I felt like the floor beneath me cracked open. Every truth I ever believed dissolved. My name, my family, even my grief. It wasn't mine. It was manufactured. But there was one thing left that Daphne hadn't controlled. Me. I turned to Quinn. Where is she now? In custody, but not talking. She will. Jasper looked at me. You sure you want to see her again? No, I said, jaw set. But I have to. And that's when my phone buzzed. A single message. Unknown sender. The woman in the holding cell isn't who you think she is. When I stepped into the holding room, I expected to see Daphne. But the woman sitting across the table? That wasn't her, not entirely. She had Daphne's posture, her poise, but the face, it was softer, thinner. A faded scar traced the jawline I knew too well, but never noticed until now. She looked up and smiled, not wickedly, not even nervously, just knowingly. You're not Daphne, I said. No, she replied. I'm Delia. The world tilted. You're her sister. Her head tilted slightly. Twin, actually, the quiet one. The fluorescent light flickered overhead. Somewhere beyond the walls, a door slammed. My pulse raced. So it wasn't you who raised me? No, she said. I just watched her do it. I cleaned up when she slipped, managed the money, played the ghost. My voice cracked. You let her steal me. Let her break me. She blinked slowly. Daphne was the sharp edge. I was the one who didn't cut. I couldn't move. My hands trembled beneath the table, fingers curling around nothing. But you still watched. I did. For a moment, the silence swallowed us both. Delia leaned forward. Daphne's dead. She took her pills the night the footage leaked. I didn't stop her. The room fell silent. I couldn't breathe. That was it? The monster that haunted my life? Gone in a bathroom with a bottle? No note? I asked. She left you something, Delia said. Not forgiveness, not an apology, just this. She slid an envelope across the table. I hesitated, then took it. Inside was a single photograph. My dad, alive, laughing, holding me in his arms, and scrawled on the back, I tried to become her because I could never become myself. My throat burned. She envied my mother. Delia nodded. She thought taking you would give her power, but she only ended up living in your shadow. Why are you telling me this? Delia folded her hands. Because she didn't raise you out of love. I need you to know that, but she did protect you from our real family. What do you mean? There are things worse than Daphne, she whispered, and you're not one of them. You broke the chain. I stood. You still let it all happen. Delia looked up at me. For the first time, I saw something almost human in her eyes. I know. The ride home felt like floating underwater. The city passed in flashes, red lights, billboards, strangers. When I got back to my apartment, I didn't unpack. I didn't cry. I sat on the floor and stared at that photo. My dad. My real smile. A memory I hadn't touched in years, suddenly clear as day. The next morning, I filed the court motion. Quinn helped. Jasper stood by me like a lighthouse. I legally changed my name, not to erase who I was, but to reclaim who I'd been before Daphne tried to rewrite me. I reached out to Elaine Porter, my biological mother. She was alive, sick, yes, but lucid, and waiting. She cried when she saw me, not because she was sad, but because I was standing. I always knew you'd find your way back, she whispered. Her hands trembled when they touched my face, and just like that, I belonged again. Not to a lie, not to a manipulator, but to the truth. It wasn't clean, or fair, or cinematic, but it was mine, and that, finally, was enough. Now, every time I pass a mirror, I don't brace myself. I look, really look. Because the woman staring back, she survived, she fought, she saw the worst, and chose better. She is me, and I'm proud of her. What I learned? Sometimes the people who raise you aren't your family, and sometimes the ones who abandon you are the ones who set you free. But you don't need anyone's permission to rewrite your story. You just need to begin. If you've stayed with me through this journey, thank you. Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. And don't miss our next story. Trust me, it's another wild ride.